Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all of you. My name is Xenia Fernandez, and on behalf of the Economic Times and Great Place to Work Institute, I welcome you all to this evening where we honor India's best companies to work for 2017. So let's start this grand evening on a high note by putting our hands together and creating some energy in the room. Fantastic. Thank you very much. You know, Jim Collins, in his bestseller, Good to Great, says, "Great vision without great people is absolutely irrelevant." And how true is that? This evening is testimony to these words, ladies and gentlemen. The attention, the effort, the resources that go into developing people who are the most valuable assets or resources a company can have is today become more and more relevant in this VUCA environment than it ever was. There are some companies, there are many companies that recognize the true value of their talent. They realize that to attract and retain the best talent, they need to create a culture that empowers, engages, and of course, even entertains when need to. Tonight, we celebrate 10 years of India's best companies to work for study. Well, first times are always sacred, but believe me, the 10th edition is as sacred as the first. So can we put our hands together for all the organizations that have been part of this journey with us? And we'd also, of course, like to thank our sponsors this evening, our title sponsor, NL Dalmia Institute of Management, Studies and Research, and our co-sponsors, Adani Realty. So the India's best companies to work for study has grown to be corporate India's most anticipated ranking, most sought after. This year's edition, ladies and gentlemen, surveyed over 130,000 employees across 20 industries. So to begin this evening, I'd like to invite on stage to present the key highlights of this study, the CEO, Great Place to Work Institute, Mr. Prasenjit Bhattacharya.
Good evening and welcome. Welcome to our study number 10 with Economic Times. Many of you know that the brand Great Place to Work actually came to India slightly earlier in 2003, and my friend and senior colleague Anil Sachdev was instrumental in getting this particular brand to come to India, and our media partner at that time was the first one to promote this study. This is the 10th year that we are doing this particular study with Economic Times. What many of us would know that our founder, Robert Levering, who was a journalist, set up Great Place to Work Institute as a part of a social vision to create great societies by helping create outstanding workplaces, to build societies by creating outstanding workplaces. But what many of us may not know is that when he was trying to popularize this concept, he actually went and met a gentleman from Arthur D. Little in those days in Cambridge in US, and spent nights together at his home trying to understand how can a concept like trust, pride and camaraderie be actually accepted by corporate world. So Arun Myra is here with us and a friend of Robert Levering. So thank you, Arun, for investing your personal time in making this framework accessible to corporates around the world, now in 52 different countries. I would like to start on this 10th year by thanking Robert Levering, Anil Sachdev and Arun Myra. Now imagine the first year we did this study in 2008 with Economic Times, you had a sum of money to invest, and how do you invest that money so that this year you would get the highest returns? And therefore, That's the question we asked, and we looked at different asset categories. My colleagues looked at the different asset categories and said that maybe gold is an option, maybe stocks are options, and if I had invested this in gold, then by now I would have got these returns, 100 rupees. But if I had invested it in the best workplaces, the companies which are present in the room today, and many others in the top 100 who are not there in this particular forum, then the return that I would have got would have been this much. This is amazing, isn't it? Because study after study has proven that the cumulative returns of the best workplaces are far higher than any other indice that you would have, whether it is BSE or Nifty or Sensex or gold and so on and so forth. And it's amazing, and probably Arun and Bhaskar, who are here today, should give us their insights on why people still feel that you get returns out of some Excel spreadsheet, when the best workplaces with trust, pride, and camaraderie are able to ensure that high trust produces far more sustainable business results. We don't say this. RSM International is a global company which has diligently studied the best workplaces and shareholder returns of these best workplaces for over the last 10 years. Dr. Suresh Surana, who comes every year, he is present here today in the first row. Dr. Surana is here. His company, he is the chairman of RSM Institute in India, has done the analysis, and they come up with their research report which gives this particular finding. In fact, the first year, Dr. Surana's colleagues came and asked us, you must be studying the balance sheets of these organizations to decide who are the best workplaces. We had to explain rather sheepishly that some of us don't know how to study a balance sheet. And that's the investor returns that you get. So culture is obviously, we know today, and everybody knows that whether it is motivation, whether it is retention, whether it is discretionary effort, or it is advocacy, the best companies will always outshine others. Now, we have a bit of a challenge in our study, and the challenge is very simple. The average organization, the organization which is not a great workplace or who is, let us say, a lousy place to work, for some reason do not come to Great Place to Work Institute to do a best company study. So therefore, the companies which are present in this room you are still an exception to the rule. The majority of the companies, unfortunately, in spite of what you see in front of your eyes as statistics, would still not leverage human capital the way you do to deliver sustained business results. But when my colleagues who are good at data science, they look at these results and over 100,000 plus employee feedback, they figure that some things are more important to employees today in corporate India. When they say that it's a great place to work, career growth, for example, is one such area which is directly impacting employee perceptions of working at a great place to work. So Mahindra is here. Mahindra Auto, for example, has something called as Empower. It's an algorithm-based career simulation tool that allows employees to look at different possibilities, play around with career options, and actually determine what competencies they need to acquire and who are the subject matter experts who can help them. The second thing which is very important to everyone, the Gen Y or the millennials or Gen Z, is a caring organizations. We have found that companies who have structured methods of involving families, who involve peers in welcoming new employees, they seem to stand 2 to 4 times higher chance of being in the top 100. So these practices are not just good practices, they are actually making a big impact on employee perceptions. There are companies like Forbes Marshall, whose training calendar is not limited to their own employees. They actually have a training calendar for families of employees. on subjects which are important and relevant to families of employees. GoZoop is a relatively new organization, and they obviously have a premium on performance. They have to justify returns on shareholder, but even in case of people that they have to let go, they have no limit on the notice period. So you are not let go till you actually find a job that is good enough for you. So caring is the important component, but the fact remains that for year after year, the component which actually has the maximum impact on your employee perceptions of working at a great place to work is fairness. And I have a company here called iNautics, part of BNY Mellon, where promotion decision goes to a interdepartmental committee, but there has to be a few sponsors, 3 sponsors who are direct stakeholders of the role holder, who will have to actually justify why this person needs a promotion. So fairness becomes a very integral part of, in fact, today in the afternoon we had a meeting of the Best Employers Club where we had some brilliant CEOs, and Apurva Purohit, who is the president of Jagaran Group, actually came and said why it's not profit sharing, it is equitable profit sharing or fairness in profit sharing that makes a difference. So these are some of the things which are important. This is something we have contested heavily in the past, because Economic Times or other media companies' reporters will go and report on the massage chairs and multi-cuisine restaurants of Google. And we kept saying that it is not the massage chairs that makes it a great place to work. But our data scientist tells us that we have special and unique benefits. 78% of the companies, of the best companies to work for employees say, yes, we have special and unique benefits, as opposed to 59% of the rest. And what are these special and unique benefits? They are not the massage chairs and the multi-cuisine restaurants. For example, SAP Lab is here. If you are an entrepreneur who want to really take a bet on yourself, on your entrepreneurial dreams, SAP is actually going to give you a sabbatical for 2 years to try out your dreams, and if required, come back and join them, because they feel that's a great value addition to them. So many practices that we have studied, and will not get into details of those practices, they actually significantly impact employee perceptions of working at a great place to work. My colleagues need to put a report which is going to give you far more details of some of these practices. So therefore, the next question that I'm going to ask as I close my session here is that, what are the CEOs of the best workplaces going to do next? And that is where what's become very important for your organizations, increasingly for our country, is can we create a great place to work for all? What about your contract workmen? What about your suppliers? What about your customers? Mahindra today is trying to create an ecosystem of people who are working with the organizations where they are extending the concept of trust, pride, and camaraderie to many of their partners. But moving beyond partners, and the big challenge which Arun Maira talked about at length today afternoon to the CEO forum that we had gathered, is that the imperative of creating jobs and creating an ecosystem where jobs are created, and imperative of making India a great place to work for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhattacharya, for those insights and for talking to us about the benefits of creating a good workplace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are privileged to have among us a very distinguished individual as our chief guest for the evening, Mr. Bhaskar Pramanik. Mr. Bhaskar Pramanik is the former chairman of Microsoft in India. He has recently been appointed on the board of State Bank of India. At Microsoft, Mr. Pramanik was focused on realizing the company's mission to empower every person and every organization in India to achieve more by executing Microsoft's platform and their productivity strategy. Mr. Pramanik believes in customer and partner obsession, developing and empowering people, promoting diversity, and of course inclusion in the workplace, and harnessing India's talent innovation to bring the power of IT to positively impact society at large. Well, of course, he has over 45 years of experience in the IT industry, and it's an honor to get to hear from him tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Pramanik on stage to deliver the keynote address.
So good evening, and I see a lot of very familiar faces. So I will try and ensure that not only do I stick to my 20 minutes, but I'll try to make this as informative as possible. You know, when Anand contacted me, I was in the UK, and he asked me to come here and deliver the keynote. And I had time to reflect as to why would he ask me, someone who's 65 years old, who's just about to retire, to talk about the future of work. I mean, I can talk to you about the past of work, but as far as the future of work is concerned, I can only sort of try and extrapolate some of the experience I've had in the recent couple of years. And that's what I thought I'd share with you, because I think, you know, the world is in a state of great flux. There's lots of interesting things which are happening. One of the things I do every day when I get up in the morning is to, you know, find out what Trump has tweeted, and then I go and check what Modi has tweeted, just to make sure that, you know, when we talk about, you know, the VUCA environment, these are two guys who always keep us on our toes. There's been more black swan moments from these two guys than perhaps in the history of mankind. So it's, you know, so when I think about what I wanted to share with you, I said, let's share with you my career and how work has transformed. Because if I think about what work was when I graduated from IIT Kanpur in 1972, and what is the workplace like, and what is the nature of work in Microsoft today as I retire as the chairman, it's hugely different. And therefore, why should we be scared about what the future brings to us? Because I think what we've seen as a change in my 45 years is more or less going to get repeated. But there are a few areas which I think are going to accelerate and which will bring about massive possible changes, and I want to talk about that. So that's really what I wanted to share with you, my past experiences about the future of work, where I see work today, and where I want to sort of look into the horizon and talk about some of the areas where I think we need to be concerned about and what we should be doing differently. So like I said, I graduated from the Indian Institute of Technology about 46 years ago. Think about it, India was still in the industrial era. Like most people, my generation, the one which was born after independence, we call the baby boomers, I front-loaded my education. So whatever education I had to do, I did it in my first 21 years. And then I went out and started looking for a job. And I joined the workforce in '72 with a company called DCM as a management trainee. And then I worked my way to management very early. And what was interesting is that when the third industrial revolution, which was IT and electronics, took place, I was primed and ready and educated to take maximum advantage of it. So if you think about that period when I graduated in '72, what were the best jobs? The best jobs were in Calcutta. They used to be called the Boxwallas, the Boxwalla companies, the Sterling companies. It was Metal Box, it was Imperial Chemicals, it was Tata's, it was Indian Aluminium. These were the companies which people wanted to work for. There were the large Indian conglomerates, like the Tatas, like DCM, like the Birlas. There used to be conglomerates like the Maffatlals, some of them who don't exist today. But basically, that was the kind of companies which people wanted to work for. There was also a lot of people who wanted to work for the government, and I'll tell you why. Because people were looking for what was the most wanted and desirable job or work environment, which was permanent employment. So the railways, the public sector, the government were all plum jobs which people wanted to have. And if you think about the nature of the contract or the nature of work at that point of time, it was obviously constrained by distance because we didn't have all this telecommunication stuff which we're all so used to. I remember in IIT Kanpur, in my hostel in 5th year, there was only one phone for 320 students, and Chotu had to call you when your mother called up from Bombay. So that's the way we used to run our business also when I first joined DCM, because you could barely be able to make a trunk call and talk to a distributor or a dealer or to another colleague. So you were constrained by distance, you were constrained by communications, there was zero diversity in the workforce, and frankly, work and life were two separate areas completely, with a brick wall in between. You didn't bring your work to home, and you never did at work, you only just focused on work. It was very hierarchical, and it had a respect for authority. What was the promise? The promise was of lifelong employment. Your perks were more than your salary, and technology assistance was minimal. I mean, I can tell you that even in I think it was around the 80s when electronic calculators came into this country, I've been to stores in Ahmedabad where you had the Munimji actually writing on his khata, and there was a young guy using the calculator. And I was saying that, is the calculator checking the calculations? They said, no, it's the other way around. Munimju is checking the calculator. So technology assists were really very, very minimal. And therefore, the only assistance you had was a human being. And he could be your office assistant, he could be your PA, he could be your steno, but that's about it. Promotions were graded. They were based on tenure and performance with annual reviews. There was a huge class distinction. If you ever joined, whether it was a DCM or you joined a metal box or Indian aluminum, there was leadership, and they had their own floor, they had their own lunchroom, and most of them had their own private toilets. And then you went to the next layer, which was the managers, and yes, they also had their own, but they had to share the toilets, but at least they had their own dining room. And then you had the rest of the people who were called workers. There were two types of HR, the one who looked after the workers, and they were called industrial relations, and the rest they were called looking after was the HR organization, which looked after the leadership and the management. So if you look at the class distinction at that point of time, it was tremendous. I mean, typically, most people at senior levels would never really get to talk to the worker. There were differences in different kinds of companies. I guess the great places to work in those days were where leadership actually came down to the level of the worker and tried to understand what their needs and requirements were. And the perks and compensations were actually a part of the position which you had. Training and development was really very job-related. Very, very job-related. And the formula for getting the best talent was to go to a particular set of institutions. Those days you had only 5 IITs, and then you had a couple of great universities in the major cities of the world. And then you hired these people, you trained them for their job, and then you let them out. And then once a year, you'd stack rank them against each other, and then you'd eliminate 10% as non-performers and take another 5% and say, let's reward them so that they continue to stay on in the company. And that's the way it was. It was really very much of a command and control, directive, very defensive kind of organizations, where it was all about trying to show people how smart you were. So that's my early 20 years. But if I fast forward to where I'm working at the present moment, which is in Microsoft, I've seen a dramatic change in the work environment. And I've been fortunate because I worked for DCM, I worked for a company called Nelco, which is part of the Tata Group. I worked for a company called Blue Star, which were Indian companies. They were all part of the industrial era. But they were sophisticated, they were good, they had a strong sense of culture. I mean, the story I must share with you is when I first came across the word culture was when I joined DCM as a management trainee. 2 weeks before we were supposed to join Bara Hindu Rao, they sent us a book on the life of Lala Shriram. And when we landed up at Bara Hindu Rao, the first thing we had to do was to write an essay as to how Lala Shriram impacted my life. So that's when I first came across the concept of culture. But DCM had very strong values, very strong culture, so I'm not trying to demean that. And I think that's what made that a great place to work at that point of time. Learning was remarkable. The amount of energy and effort which this put on us management trainees, on-the-job trainings, on classroom courses was really, really very, very interesting. And it was, continuous. It wasn't that it just happened once and then you were sent out. You had the opportunity to continue to learn. But what I found most exciting about DCM was the peer environment, the people whom I were working with, whether they were a couple of years senior or they were junior, the quality of people. And that's one thing I've learned, that if you want to, you want to create a work environment, you've got to make sure that the people in that environment actually reinforce each other and that you get the best, because the best breeds the best. Nelco was very interesting. Ratan Tata had just taken over that company. He had just come back from the US. I got an opportunity to work with him. And I learned a lot about entrepreneurship. I remember he sent me to the US to sign the agreement with a mini computer company in California. And I asked him, what is my brief? And he just said that there's only two things. Both sides need to make money. And number two is that we need to make something which actually adds value to what industry is doing here in India. And that was really the sum total of the briefing. So therefore, the ability to take decisions at very early age in life, to actually contribute before you're even 30. I had, when I was in Nelco, I had close to about, I was a divisional manager. I had close to about 300-400 people. I ran everything except finance and materials. And it's very difficult to get that kind of opportunity early in your life. And what's interesting is that now in Microsoft, I hire a lot of what we call marks from campuses, Microsoft academic campus hires. We call them marks. And we hire some of the best in the world. And then after 3 months of training, we are very reluctant to give them very responsible position. And I have to keep reminding my managers that when they were that age, what were the responsibilities they had? Because I know I had far greater responsibilities and powers to take decisions. So the work environment today, when I left the DCM and Tatas, I joined a company called Digital. Then I was with Sun Microsystems and now with Microsoft. And I think all three companies have a lot of things in common. One is that they're all technology. But they were the leaders in each one of their fields. Digital in the field of mini computers, Sun Microsystems in the field of workstations. Then it became the leader in the area of servers. Became the leader in the case of so if you start, and if you look at Microsoft, it's, I can go on and on in areas where it's done really very well. But what was very common, or what was one thing which went across all of these companies, was their strong sense of purpose, their vision and mission as a company, and most important, their culture. I mean, I can tell you that I'm a great believer of culture, because culture is what transforms companies and it's what makes companies do stuff which will be written in the history books. And as Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And my CEO, Satya Nadella, also added, it eats it for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And I want to explain how important this is, because this is exactly what how we've used culture to actually transform Microsoft. The Microsoft of today is very different from the Microsoft I joined 6 years ago. And it's a different company, it's much more innovative. Not that innovation wasn't there in Microsoft earlier, but it's much more bold, much more aggressive. It's willing to take out untried technology and really push it out into the marketplace to gain more experience out of it. It would never do that earlier. It would wait for it to be actually successful. And the way Satya Nadella did that was he first looked at what was the mission of the company, and he changed that. And if you look at our mission as a company today, it's about enabling every individual and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And just think about it. The earlier visions of the company was to put a PC on everybody's desk. And we did that. We have 1.5 billion PCs in the world, which is 1/4 of the population of the world. Does that imply that once you achieve your vision, the company should die? Well, it was nearly dying. And that's why the new mission statement or vision statement of the company doesn't have anything about technology. And that's one of the lessons I've learned, is that you come out with a vision, don't ever, ever put technology into it, because technology has the shelf life of a banana, and if that banana becomes stale, does that mean that your vision doesn't exist anymore? So that was the first thing, the sense of purpose, the vision, a strategy, the big, bold bets, and then he focused on the culture. And the culture was a huge change, because if you think about Microsoft, Microsoft was not very much different from a DCM or an Elco in terms of the industrial era. It hired people, the best in the world, and then it did exactly what I shared with you. If they performed, that was great. If they didn't perform, out they went, and you hired some additional people. Failure was not tolerated. You were not allowed to make a mistake. You came in with the objective that everybody knew everything they had to know. And therefore, it was a know-it-all organization. It was not a learn-it-all organization. And those are some of the changes we make. We call it the growth mindset, moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So I can talk for hours, but that was not really the purpose of this. But that's the work environment today, which I know is there in the technology industry and many of the companies which are here today. You are running organizations where you believe that people are your most powerful assets. You have people who will realize their potential because you give them that environment, and that you empower them to make the mistakes so that when they fail, that they will learn from it and do even better. You give them an environment so that they come to work every day and they give them the A game. They can produce their A game. That's what you've done, and that's what we've done also in Microsoft. A couple of other things which these three companies I worked for had. One is the values which they bring to the table, technology, innovation, operational excellence, a huge focus on people development, organizational excellence, obsession about customers, and the use of technology in practically every facet of our business. Today in Microsoft, I use artificial intelligence to monitor compliance. I use AI and technology to basically help salespeople understand what they need to do next in terms of the opportunities they have ahead of them. We use bots to interact with our customers. So if you start looking at who we are, using technology is core to who we are and what we need to get done. The other thing which is common amongst all three was the desire to give back to society. And this is one of the messages I'm giving to most of the companies I'm mentoring, the startups, that they need to start focusing on what do they mean to the rest of society. Because it's not all about how do I succeed, become a unicorn, and make tons of money. It's what do you contribute back. And I think today you cannot be up here as one of the great places to work if you're not concerned about the society around you, the unfortunate, the people who are less fortunate than we are, and who need those opportunities. And therefore, that corporate social responsibility is not something because the government has imposed a tax on you, but it is something which you do because it's part and parcel of your life and your working environment. So that's the other thing which all these three had in common. And then finally, I think it is the unwavering ethics and integrity. Integrity is to the extent where you have everything to lose, but you will still toe that path. And sometimes I get disappointed when I hear some of the CEOs of the industry talk about, but if we did this, we would lose business. It doesn't matter. You should lose business, because there's only one way to do something, and that's the right way. So these were some of the things which are common. That's what exists today. But let's now talk about what's in the horizon. And like I started off, I think we live in an environment where it's, the world is in a huge state of flux. I can't think of any other. I don't want to use a pessimistic term, but it's in a state of flux. There's so much of change which is going around that I think those are great opportunities, but to a lot of people, they could weigh you down and make you wonder whether is this the right time to press on, or is it the time to retire? Let's talk about some of these elements which are creating this sense of uncertainty. Number one is, I think, what all of us are hearing, experiencing, which is this pushback against globalization. And if you think about it, over the last 20 years, globalization has made such huge progress. And then all of a sudden, a couple of incidents, a couple of elections actually turned it away. And then the good news now is that at least in Europe, they've understood what Brexit has done to UK and what Trump has done to the US. And at least now we've got much more saner people being voted into power in Europe. And hopefully, therefore, globalization, climate control, and all of that is most probably likely to come back. But this pushback against globalization, this pushback or this extreme nationalism which we are seeing is really going to be something which we have to worry about. So in the case of Microsoft, for example, this was the question. In fact, when Satya was here and he had a meeting with Mr. Modi, Modi asked him that if it is going to be America first, what does it mean for India? And I think his response was that in whichever country we are in, we will create opportunities for that country. So yes, it will be America first, it will be UK first, it will be India first as far as Microsoft is concerned, wherever we are. So therefore, you think about your work environment, you think about the role of HR in an environment where every country comes first and you're creating opportunities within that country, then you understand that that's something which we have to think about how we're going to handle. There's a shift in global economic power. India today is a $2.5 trillion, $3 trillion economy. We're just about getting to the size of the UK. We'll overtake the UK most probably over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. China is already the second largest economy. And yes, Brazil and Russia are having some problems, but there's a whole bunch of other countries which are following on the heels. And this economic shift does imply that there will be more jobs in those countries, which means talent will not go global. There's no need for India's best talent to go to the US or UK or even to the Middle East. And therefore, that shift in the economic power is going to imply that the developed countries are going to have to worry about where their talent is going to come from, because it may not come from the traditional sources. And in fact, that's another interesting story, because Mr. Modi actually told Satya that he told the US that if you don't want he told a bunch of senators that if you don't want our engineers, that's fine, we'll go find some other countries who want them. And that's the approach which I think we need to. The talent will go to where it is wanted and where it can have the best impact. So that's the other one, which is the shift in global economic power. The other big change which is likely to take place is in the role of multinationals and transnationals. Because now multinationals and transnationals, in the last 40 years, have become the size of countries. And both in terms of the economic power they wield and the number of employees or people whom they impact. And that's huge. There are about 100 companies which are like oligopolies across the globe today. And whether they're in aircraft engines, whether they are airlines, whether they are telecom companies, semiconductor manufacturers, whether they are medical equipment companies, whether they are seed companies, agricultural equipment, automotive, you will find that in each one of these major verticals, there is a bunch of companies which actually dominate, and they dominate on a global scale. They will determine the nature of work which is going to be done and how it is going to be done. Like I mentioned to you, in the case of Microsoft, we have made it very clear that for us, globalization means that we will create opportunities in every country in which we operate. Most of these companies are going to be looking at that. and trying to figure out how the supply chain at the back can actually be combined, can be utilized by all these different countries to provide them that necessarily competitive edge. So the future of work is going to be determined by some of these large organizations, and they are hungry for talent. And they're going to inspect their HR departments to be able to go find that talent, to be able to measure the performance of their people. So you'll see some dramatic things happening in the way HR is structured in some of these large organizations. The other area which is going to have a huge impact is on diversity, is demographics. Diversity is one such area. There was a study done by McKinsey which actually said that if gender itself, gender diversity, that means there were women had the same level of opportunities and were represented in the workforce as men, not to the same extent, but best in class in every region, then the world could add $12 trillion to the global GDP. That goes to show how much of talent exists and how much of that talent is not being put to use. The one area which I want to spend a little time is about the fact that people are going to live longer. So it's going to be, most people are going to live, my generation, or hopefully I will, but most of you will live to about 80, and some of you, who are the younger ones, will live to 100. Now just imagine what it means from a career perspective. You spend 21 years, 22 years actually educating yourself, and typically it was about 40 years where you worked and then you retired. Now if you're going to live and you died at 80, right, 70s, and now it's going to be 80. Now if you don't die at 70 or 80 and you live to 100, what it implies is that from the time you start working, 43% of whatever you earn will have to be saved to be able to enable you to live the same lifestyle when you retire. I only have to plan perhaps for about 13 or 14 years of retirement. Some of you will have to plan for 35 years. So something has to give. No government is going to have money for that kind. And more important, most of us will want to figure out how do we take this forward in terms of being able to afford the lifestyles which we have. And there are many ways in which people are going to be looking at that. It's going to be second careers, it may be third careers, it may be people volunteering to do something. But very clearly, the old way in which you had only 3 phases in your life is gone. It also implies that unlike me, who had to rush to get to the top as quickly as possible, most of the new millennial generation won't need to do that. They can stop, they can take a break, they can take a second career, decide to take a hobby, take 2 years off to fail, to start an enterprise and fail and then come back. And we should welcome that. Our current policies do not enable for that. So therefore, if our lifespan is going to increase, we have to think differently in the way in which we are going to go about. So that's the one area which I think all of us have to understand is that, you know, if you're going to live to 100 years, even front-ending your education in the beginning may not be good. So you most probably will have to look at continuous education or breaks in between to really come up to speed. So this whole issue about what happens when you're 100 years, when you live to 100 years, is something which is going to have the same impact as technology. And let's now talk about technology. You know, technology is creating disruption like never before. And the disruption is not in the technology itself, but in terms of what it is doing in terms of industry. So all of you are familiar with Airbnb, Uber, Amazon, Tesla. They're all disrupting the industries in which they're in. I mean, you think about the automobile. It hasn't, it's been there for the last 150 years, and very little has changed. You're still flying today on planes based on the internal combustion engine, controlled explosions at 37,000 feet. I know it makes you feel very safe, but that's exactly how a plane flies. So now, all of a sudden, you've got a guy like Elon Musk who's questioning that. He's talking about going to space. He's talking about electric cars. He's talking about electronic storage. That's going to disrupt. You think about medicine. You think about life sciences. All of these industries are getting disrupted completely. Computing is just one part of it. So with all this which is going to happen, we have to also understand how we can use that technology in our work environment. Assisted technology is going to become part and parcel of all of us. Each one of us will have our personal assistants. In fact, we may have more than one. You will see the use of artificial intelligence in many areas. Now, will this lead to job losses? The answer is yes. If you think about jobs, there are three kinds of jobs: high skills, medium skills, and low skills. The ones which are going to be completely automated are the medium skills. You know, if you think about technology, the more complex the task, the easier for a computer to take over. If you think about chess or Go, it's easier for a computer to manage that. But if you ask a computer to walk up the stairs, humans can do that much better. They've got that much more flexibility. It takes enormous effort, technology, and cost to get a robot to walk up the stairs. So think about that complex tasks is far more suitable for computing. Lower level tasks are far more suitable for human. That's why low level skilled jobs, like somebody who turns your bed in the hotel, or somebody who sweeps the street, or not sweeps the street, but somebody who does a simple job of moving something from in a kitchen. Some of those tasks are going to continue to be with people because it's either cheaper or it's too complex to try and use it by computers. At the high level, you will have skills which are based on which is based upon things like just one second. Which are more requires things like creativity, which requires sensory perceptions, which requires, those are the ones which, intuition, those are the ones which will be very difficult for a computer to take over. And that's why the high-level skills, which is a combination of a human being assisted by IT or AI or any other, is going to be far more prevalent. But it's the medium-level jobs, medium-skilled jobs, which are the ones which are going to be under threat. So that's really the areas which I wanted to talk to you about. And I just wanted to end with a couple of areas which I think is important of what we can do differently. So I think one is very clear that we have to evolve education systems and learnings for a changed workplace. We've got to put more emphasis on creativity as well as critical and system thinking. We've got to foster adaptive and lifelong learning. That's key. And that has to start at school levels, and we're not doing that. Our education system is still based upon the British system to produce clerks. We need to expect more evolving life stages. Like I said, you won't have just 3 stages in your life. You need to think about the fact that most people will do career changes midterm. They will stop, they will explore more, they will be independent producers, and then perhaps some of them will do more jobs, more than one job at a time. And then you've got to understand that we have to recognize the changing attitudes to the work-life balance. Work and home are not separate. My generation, the baby boomers, we worked because we had to live. The next generation, they came and they worked because they wanted to play. And the new millennials, they want to work and play at the same time. So, all of a sudden, your work environment has to enable them to do that they can work and play at the same time. So work and home are no longer separate. And you've got to also recognize the changing nature of families. For me, it was easy for me to do these 3 phases in my life because my wife was a homekeeper, and she did more than that. She was a teacher, she was a consultant, but she never really had a full-time career. And we should plan for that because in future, that's what is going to happen. People are going to come into the work stream, have careers, move out at different phases of their life, and they want to do different things. And we need to figure out how to enable them to make that happen. One of the areas which we need to Basically, support from the government is to create incentives for the private sector investment to treat human capital like other forms of capital, encourage investments in headcount, including job creation, learning and capability building, and wage growth through benefits and incentives. So therefore, there needs to be a lot more focus. Currently, it's about building capital assets. I think it's about now focusing and getting incentives for human capital. We need to think about providing safety nets for people who are going to be displaced from work, and this needs to be done at an industry level, at the national level, because we need to think about the concept of universal basic income. There's some talk around that. We need to think about conditional transfers and safety nets as more automation comes into the industry. And we need to provide some form of transition support. More important, I think we need to look at technology as an enabler, and we need to ensure that we help humans innovate alongside machines, because that time has come. And we need to capture the benefit of the productivity from machines. Over the last 200 years, the increase in productivity by various different means, whether it was automation, steam engine, has never been more than 1%. And the hope now is that with robotics, artificial intelligence, the improvement from a productivity perspective will be only about 1.4%, but the other benefits which will accrue in terms of customer quality of products, customer satisfaction, et cetera, is expected to be much higher. So those are really my thoughts. I think, in my 45 years, I've seen a dramatic change in the way the work environment has. Culture has started to become and play a much greater role, not only in building successful companies, but ensuring that you can attract the kind of talent which you want. Going forward, technology is going to continue to disrupt. We are going to see lifespans increasing, so therefore we need to be prepared for that. And I think that very clearly the attitude towards work, life, etc., are all changing, and therefore we need to plan for that. So we need to be cognizant of this if we are really going to continue to make India or the globe a better place to work. I feel very privileged to be here. I know many of you, and I want to congratulate all of you, the winners, for the excellent work you've done. What you're doing in the context of what I said is perhaps what will enable us to make India the best place to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Pramanik, for gracing this occasion with your presence and for addressing us this evening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to felicitate the winners of 2017. We will begin with felicitating organizations that have successfully transformed their respective industry. I'd now like to request Mr. Srijit Mishra, COO, Binet Coleman and Company Limited, to kindly join me on stage to give away the first set of awards. Thank you for joining me, sir. Well, these awards will be given in the alphabetical order. Now, the first set of organizations are among the best in the auto and auto components industry. Please put your hands together for Apollo Tires. Can we hear it for them once again? Congratulations. And the next organization in this industry is Gabriel India. Fantastic, congratulations. Next up, we have an organization that has made a mark in the banking and the credit services industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Yes Bank. Next set of organizations are among the best in the biotechnology and the pharmaceuticals industry. Please welcome on stage Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Congratulations. And the next organization in this industry is RPG Life Sciences. Well, next we call upon organizations that are among the best in the construction and the real estate industry. Please help me welcome Brigade Enterprises. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in this industry is Hilti, India. While they pose for their photo op, I'm going to call upon the next up in this industry. Join me in welcoming JLL Property Consultants, India. Well, moving on, our next award is for organizations that are among the best in the healthcare industry. Please join me in welcoming Claris Life Sciences. Moment, I'm going to call our next organization in the healthcare industry, Centis Pharma. We call upon organizations that are among the best in the insurance industry. Please welcome on stage Apollo Munich Health Insurance Company. moment, I'm going to call on our next organization in this industry. Please put your hands together for HDFC Standard Life Insurance Company. And our next award is for an organization that is among the best in the investments industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please invite with a round of applause JM Financial Services. Our next set of awards, which are for organizations that are among the best in the ITES industry. Please welcome on stage IHG IT Services India. And in this industry, ladies and gentlemen, our next organization, put your hands together for Standard Chartered Global Business Services. We call upon organizations that are among the best in the manufacturing and production industry. Please welcome Forbes Marshall. As they receive the award, I'm going to call on our next organization. Please put your hands together for JK Lakshmi Cement. Next up in this industry, please join me in welcoming Raychem RPG. Receive the award, I'm going to call upon our next awardee, which is Shree Cement. Ladies and gentlemen, our next award is for an organization that is among the best in the media industry. Please put your hands together for Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited. Our next set of awards are for organizations that are among the best in the professional services industry. Please welcome on stage Fractal Analytics. Next up in this industry, please put your hands together for Indegene. Congratulations, and with that, Ms. Mishra, I'm going to thank you. Thank you so much for doing the honors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to the top 50. So to give away the next set of awards, yes. Well, we can do this every time I announce a winner, yeah? To give away our next set of awards, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon Mr. Prasanjit Bhattacharya to please join me on stage, sir. Welcome. All right, top 50, here we go. Please put your hands together for Salesforce.com, ranked 50th among top 100 companies. Next, we have Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services at rank 49. They are also recognized as one of the best companies to work for in the financial services industry. And as the team collects their award, next up, join me in welcoming Yash Technologies, ranked 48th among top 100 companies. And now please put your hands together for Citius Tech Healthcare Technology, ranked 47th. now at rank 46, please give a round of applause for Kantar's Global Delivery Center. Ladies and gentlemen, they are also recognized as one of the best companies to work for in the ITES industry. And ranked 45th is Indophil Industries. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the manufacturing and the production industry. And now please help me welcome the National Stock Exchange of India, ranked 44th among top 100 companies. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the financial services industry. And at rank 43, let's hear it for Atria Convergence Technologies. Well, they are also being recognized in the category for applying data analytics towards building a great workplace culture. Next up, we have BMC Software India, ranked 42nd among top 100 companies. And now please help me welcome on stage our next winner at rank 41. It is Music Broadcast. They are also recognized as one of the best companies to work for in the media industry. And as they receive their award, I'm going to move on to rank 40, which is Marico. Marico is also recognized as one of the best companies to work for in the FMCG industry. And now please help me welcome Bharat Financial Inclusion, ranked 39th among top 100 companies. Now going to call upon rank 38. We have NTPC Limited. NTPC, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the best companies to work for in the public sector and among large-sized organizations. And they're also one of the 5 organizations to feature in all the 10 rankings. And now let's hear it for Tata Power Delhi Distribution, rank 37. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the energy, oil and gas industry. And next up, please give a round of applause for Barbecue Nation Hospitality, ranked 36th among the top 100 companies. While they receive their award, I'm going to call upon ranked 35th, who is InMobi Technology Services. And I must also mention they are recognized also as one of the best companies to work for in the media industry. And now let's hear it for Lupin Limited at rank 34. Do we have someone in the room from Lupin? Okay, I believe they've stepped out of the room, so I'm going to move on to our rank 33, ladies and gentlemen, Ernst & Young. They are also recognized as one of the best companies in the professional services industry. And we now have Shriram Value Services, ranked 32nd among top 100 companies. Let's move on to our next award. Please put your hands together for Power Grid Corporation of India at rank 31. Next up at rank 30 is Hardcastle Restaurants. As they receive their award, next I'd like to call upon Blue Dart Express. Express, ranked 29th among the top 100 companies. Express are also recognized as one of the best companies to work for amongst large-sized organizations. And at rank 28, ladies and gentlemen, is Indus Towers. They are also recognized as one of the best companies in the telecommunications industry. And now please welcome on stage Indian Oil Corporation at rank 27. Indian Oil is also one of the best companies to work for in the energy, oil and gas industry. They're also being recognized in two more categories, which is public sector and among large-sized organizations. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Spicer India at rank 26. Spicer India is also recognized as one of the best companies in the auto and auto components industry. Fantastic. With that, Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you very much for doing the honors. Thank you very much. And with this, we move into the top 25 best companies to work for 2017. And to give away our next set of awards, I'd like to request Ms. Seema Saini, CEO of NL Dalmia Education Society, to please join us. Can we have a round of applause for the lady? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, here we go. I'd like to call upon Hilton Worldwide, ranked 25th among top 100 companies. As they receive the award, I'm going to call upon rank 24. It is BT Global Business Services. They are also one of the best companies in the ITES industry. Welcoming Mahindra & Mahindra Automotive and Farm Equipment Sectors at rank 23. They are also one of the best companies in the auto and automotive components industry and are being recognized in two more categories, namely employer branding and for applying data analytics towards building a great workplace culture. Now, the next company is known for its global program titled Opportunity Hack, which is a platform that brings together NGOs and developers interested in creating tech-based solutions for the challenges faced by these organizations. Please help me welcome PayPal India at rank 22. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the employee wellness category. And now at rank 21, please welcome on stage the Oberoi Group. Miss Seni, thank you very much. Miss Seni, thank you for doing the honors. You may take your seat. To give away our next set of awards, I'd like to request Mr. Bhaskar Pramanik to please join me on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round for Mr. Pramanik? So, thank you very much for joining me. At rank 20, please put your hands together for Reliance Capital, Commercial Finance and Home Finance Divisions. They are also one of the best companies in the financial services industry. Now, next up, ladies and gentlemen, is an organization that provides executives with an opportunity to undertake managerial responsibilities by appointing them as acting managers for a short duration, of course. Now, this practical opportunity enables aspiring managers to understand their development needs and, of course, work towards moving up the management cadre. At rank 19 is Federal Express Corporation. They are also one of the best companies in the transportation industry. Yep, yes, please. Keep the claps coming. Well, the next organization has an India Culture Lab that explores what it means to be both modern and Indian. It was established in 2011, and some of the themes that the lab has explored so far include reimagining the use of urban spaces, the negotiation of gender and sexuality, the varied impacts of the digital age, and how Desi innovation is inherently Jugadu. Please join me in welcoming rank 18 Godrej Consumer Products Limited. Now, in addition to being one of the best companies in the FMCG industry, they are also one of the 5 organizations to feature in all the 10 rankings, ladies and gentlemen. our next organization has a volunteer connection portal that enables employees to learn about volunteer opportunities, track service hours, and of course form teams to volunteer together. In addition, it also spotlights the inspiring work that employees carry out around the globe at rank 17. Let's welcome Cadence Design Systems, India. Now it's time to call upon rank 16. Please put your hands together for Bajaj Finance. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the financial services industry. Moving on at rank 15, let's hear it for Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. Ladies and gentlemen, ranked 14th among top 100 companies, please welcome on stage Intercontinental Hotels Group. They are also one of the best companies in the hotels and resorts industry. Rank 13 is one of the best companies in the small finance bank industry. Please welcome on stage Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. I'm going to talk about our next organization, where associates who have been appreciated by guests are recognized with a small note and a photograph that is shared across the hotel. This, of course, builds a sense of pride in the employee, but it also encourages others to give their very best at serving their guests. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Marriott Hotels India at rank 12. Marriott Hotels is one of the best companies to work for in the hotels and resorts industry and in the employee wellness category, and they're also one of the 5 organizations to feature in all the 10 rankings. And at our next organization, all women employees entering motherhood are offered the Run Mumia app that is designed to be a friend and a guide by helping them understand the policies that are applicable to them during and, of course, after the pregnancy. Please join me in welcoming SAP India at rank 11. And with that, Mr. Pramanik, thank you so much for doing the honors. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest who has joined us this evening, Mr. Arun Maira, who is a distinguished author, a thought leader, a former member of the Planning Commission, and the former chairman of BCG India. He has made a significant contribution to corporate and government policy level thinking and has also served on the boards of several companies. Sir, may I request you to please come on stage and say a few words before we give away the final set of awards.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here to celebrate the 100 best places to work in India. It is the aspiration of many of us, it's certainly my aspiration, to make India the best place to work in the world. And I want to make 5 points, briefly. The first is, a smart competitive strategy is one which makes use of the resource that you have most abundantly. If you have more infantry soldiers and the other side has more cavalry, your strategy can't be how to use cavalry. It has to be how to use infantry. If you have more shale rocks and shale oil, your strategy has to be able to extract and to transform that resource into the fuel for your economy. If you have more deep sea oil, then your strategy has to be based on using that resource that you have more abundantly. That's point number one. Point number two is, if you have a resource in abundance, which must form the basis of your strategy, you must be the best at technologies that help you to take advantage of that resource, to refine that resource, whether it's shale oil or deep sea oil, to refine it and to get the most out of it. If you have more solar energy, well, best technologies of using solar energy is what your strategy must be. If it's wind, then wind. So you must be the best at the world in using the resource that you are most abundant in. That's point number two. Point number three, well, what's the resource that India is most abundant in the world? Human resources. We have to be the best in the world at developing and deploying human resources in enterprises. I repeat again, what is the resource that India is most abundant in? We keep saying, oh, demographic dividend, young people. So what is the resource we must use most of in our enterprises and be the best at refining and getting the most out of it is people and human resources. Point number 4. Fortunately, amongst all the resources that are available to us in our enterprises, machines, buildings, even technology, and there's people, the one resource amongst these that has the ability to improve itself, to grow and produce new capabilities, it's not your machines, it's not your buildings, it's not even technology. It is the human beings. They are the only appreciating resource that you have in an enterprise. So, we are lucky that in India, the resource that is most abundantly available to us is a renewable, self-renewing resource, provided, and that comes to the 5th point, provided the places in which they work nurture that resource. The Levering Trust Index, which is the intellectual foundation for the framework of the best places to work, by which you have been judged, the 100 examples who shall be inspirations, hopefully, to make India overall the best place to work in the world, talks of 3 very soft things. Talks of pride, talks of camaraderie, it talks of trust. As someone said earlier on, Prasanjit, that it's not in your Excel sheets that you'll see these things. These things are palpable in where? In the minds and the hearts of the people who work there. Their pride, their sense of camaraderie, trust that they have in your organization, in their colleagues, and in their management. And this trust is not brought about by laws. It's about relationships. And so we in our country, as we're talking about that we need to grow more engagement in enterprises, more people engaged in enterprises, it's not about reforming our labor laws. So I would urge us, as the leaders here, by examples that you know, that it's not by changing laws that you have made your organizations a great place to work. It's by, as we said, relationships, and accepting that your people are the only asset that you have that is going to give you a sustainable competitive advantage. So let's spend more time learning about how to develop our organizations to be great places to work, and not spending too much time debating about what would be the right labor laws to have in this country. Finally, this has to be a movement. 100 great organizations in a country of 1.2 billion people are not going to make any of a difference. It's just a few drops in a huge ocean. We've got to be the few drops which will color the whole ocean, to make a movement, to make the whole of India a great place to work. So I urged us all to follow Great Place to Work, the Institute here, and yourselves in Economic Times, to be the leaders of a movement of change. A movement of change. How shall this movement grow? And it has to grow soon, because time is running out. Bhaskar reminded us that age just goes on. That's one thing. Every year we are getting older. And Bhaskar, I realize that though I'm following you here, you've actually been following me, because I joined DCM as a management trainee a few years before you did. I was there for a few days. I joined Tata's a few years before you did, and I was there for a long time. And I'm quite a few years older than you. You're 65, and I won't tell you. I'm 10 years older than you. And I am recognizing what he is pointing out to us, that the most misused, underused, but most rapidly growing resource that humanity has, including India, is what? Elderly people. We're not integrating the elderly and taking advantage of, I think, their passion, their wisdom. Don't shunt them aside. So thank you for finally having Bhaskar and myself, two elderly people, to share some thoughts with you about how we can make India a great place to work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm going to request you to stay with me to give away our next set of awards, which are the top 10 best companies to work for 2017. At rank 10, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome DHL Express. DHL is also one of the best companies in the employee wellness category. And next up at rank 9 is Pitney Bow Software India. organization has an extremely popular form of communicating important information amongst their employees. It's called Nukkad Natak. It is performed to drive home any important message in, of course, a very fun and an engaging way. And during Nukkad Natak, actors simulate a real-life situation that employees usually face on the job and how they should conduct themselves so as to live up to the company values and go the extra mile to support their customers. Ranked 8th among top 100 companies is Teleperformance India. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the ITES industry. And as they receive their award, please welcome at rank 7, we have NetApp India. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the IT industry. And now please join me in welcoming at rank 6, Adobe Systems. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the IT industry. Congratulations, and ladies and gentlemen, we are now down to the top 5. Can we have a round of applause in advance? And keep those claps coming for SAP Labs India, ranked 5th among top 100 companies. They are also one of the best companies to work for in the IT industry. And ranked 4th among top 100 companies is Lemon Tree Hotels. Lemon Tree is also one of the best companies to work for in the hotels and resorts industry. And they're also being recognized in 2 more categories, namely employer branding and for applying data analytics towards building a great workplace culture. Congratulations. Now, this next organization has a diversity core program to connect employees to high-impact, high-priority diversity projects across the company. Please give a huge round of applause to Google India, ranked 3rd among top 100 companies. Google is also one of the best companies to work for in the IT industry and are also one of the 5 organizations to feature in all the 10 rankings. We're down to the top 2. And I can see some people here have cold feet. One of the strongest sources of inspiration is when employees hear from their peers and colleagues about their life at work, their stories of going beyond the call of duty, and how they make the most of life, be it professionally or personally. Narrated by employees themselves, First Person is an initiative by our next ranker to see and hear a day in the life of teams working all over the globe to grow business, stay efficient, and serve customers in unique ways. What is even more is employees can even reach out and spend a day with some other teams featured in First Person. Ranked second among top 100 companies is American Express India. Finally. American Express India is one of the best companies to work for in the financial services industry, employee wellness category, and among large-sized organizations. And they are also one of the 5 organizations to feature in all the 10 rankings. Can we have a round of applause for them? Come on. And now, of course, we're down to the grand prize, the numero uno, ladies and gentlemen. This organization has introduced a gadget library called Da Vinci Center to drive product and technology awareness among their employees. The library was started in August 2015 to inspire their employees and make the latest hardware technology available to them. It, of course, gives their teams an opportunity to get their mitts on newly released gadgets in the market, especially those that may not be economically viable for them to invest in. Ladies and gentlemen, give a huge round of applause for Intuit India, India's best company to work for 2017. Intuit India is also one of the best companies to work for in the IT industry and are also being recognized in 2 more categories, employee wellness and employee branding. Ladies and gentlemen, come on, keep those claps coming. Number 1 in India. Best workplace in our country. Wow, what a finale. Mr. Myra, thank you very much, sir, for doing the honors. And of course, with this, we come to the end of the awards ceremony for India's best companies to work for 2017. Hearty congratulations to all the winners. Can we have one final round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you sitting in the room who make things happen. I'm Xenia Fernandez, and it was an absolute honor and pleasure to share this fabulous evening with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I go, I want to thank our title sponsors once again, NL Dalmia Institute of Management Studies and Research, and our co-sponsor, Adani Realty. I also want to inform you that the study issue is available with your copy of the Economic Times on July 3rd. Now, so please feel free to go and grab yours. What are we waiting for? The party has begun. Let the celebrations continue over cocktails and dinner. Have a great evening. Take care.